Greetings, Tauvar, and welcome to another episode of the Puretide Program's Tau Detachment Breakdown post-September Slate. It's time to talk about Retaliation Cadre, one of my favourite Tau detachments, and one that if you put in the hard work, put in the amount of reps that you need, perfect your craft, it is the most fun you will have with Tau ever. And why is that? Well, it's centered around the models that we love. The battle suits, the commanders, riptides, whatever it is. If it's got the battle suit keyword, it belongs in this detachment. Why? Well, let's go through what the detachment offers us. The detachment rule is when you're within 12 inches, your ranged weaponry gain +1 strength. That is huge. And the reason it's huge is because if you look at some of our weapons, they do have a lackluster of strength into certain targets. To give you an example, a flamer is strength 4. So shooting a flamer into a Terminator or something with toughness 5, you're going to be winning on 5s. Not in this detachment. When you're within 12, and obviously a range of a flamer is 12, you gain +1 strength, so suddenly you're winning on 4s. Now it's only AP 1 in Starsight because it's AP 0, but when you're in Starsight, you gain an additional AP and you get to fall back and shoot. So if you end up getting this unit within 9, suddenly it becomes Strength 5, AP 0 to AP 1 to AP 2 if it's targeting a non-monster vehicle unit. So that is huge. So other strengths, a burst cannon is Strength 5. When it's within 12, it becomes Strength 6. Really good into those targets, like I mentioned, Terminators, or if anything's T6, like Bulgrin. Cool, I'm now Strength 6. So it allows you to pair your units up with up to targets that you maybe would struggle into. Okay, well, they're toughness 6. Well, I just make sure that my burst cannon unit can now target them, and then I'll be winning on 4s. And with access to rerolls like 1s to hit, 1s to win from stealth suit, it can really make you super efficient into those targets. You just need to focus on selecting the correct units of yours against the enemy's units. Other breakpoints. Sunforge, they're meant to be our anti-tank pieces, but they're only strength 9. In rep, when you're within 12, becomes strength 10, which is huge. Sunforge have the ability to reroll wounds and reroll damage against monsters or vehicles. Suddenly, you're no longer winning on 5s at that T10 tank, you're winning on 4s with rerolls, which is a huge shift in efficiency. So, those are just a couple of examples. There's many more to go through. But the extra part of the detachment, like I mentioned already in some of those examples, is when you're within 9 inches, you gain an extra AP. So again, matching up your guns to what armor save the opponent has, and then making the correct choices in terms of what you're putting into the said target. Gives you maximum flexibility here. And the other thing about this, and we're not even going on to the enhancements or the strategy, let's talk about the data sheets. You've got 3 forms of crisis suits. Crisis suit number 1, the Sunforge, already mentioned. 4 up invuln, so they're the only crisis team with an invulnerable save. You've got reroll wounds and damage against monster vehicles. Cool, so those Sunforge goes against monster vehicles. Right, got that, perfect. The Starsight, they're the anti-infantry, so anything that if they target anything that's not a monster vehicle, they gain an extra AP, and their built-in rule is fall back, shoot. Perfect. Okay, so they go after infantry, and they got 2 variants, either the burst unit or the flamer unit. Then you have the Fire Knife Battlesuit teams. Their role is a little bit of a flex between infantry killing, but also into elite. Their rule is that they ignore all hit modifiers, so are perfect into things that will rely on stealth or any other mices to hit, because you just ignore it. They get full rerolls when they target something that's at full starting strength. And if the unit that they're shooting at is below starting strength, they get reroll 1s. That's great to have anyway. Full rerolls to hit on a unit that's got all the missiles. That's 12 missiles, full rerolls to hit. And again, remember those breakpoints. +1 strength, so the missiles go from strength 7 to strength 8. If you're within 9, the AP goes from 1 to 2, and it's damage 2, so it's great into marine bodies, or anything with 2 wounds. And you've got the range as well, so 30-inch range. And the plasma variant, great at killing elite, and also really good into T9 targets now, because when you get within 12, you get +1 strength, so they can deal with transports. They're AP3, if they get within 9, they're AP4, goes right through, flat 3 damage. And with full rerolls to hit, it's very consistent. So those are the 3 crisis data sheets. The other layer to this is that it's great when you're applying it to the crisis, but you imagine putting a commander that's got access to 4 gun profiles and can suddenly go, right, well, I've got all the shots. I'd like to re-roll those shots because I hit on 2s after being guided. Perfect. Right, I'm going to finite team. Oh, I've got 4 fusions on my commander. Well, I'll put him in Sunforge, so he also gets the reroll wounds and damage against monster vehicles. You see where I'm going with this. Pairing up your commanders with your crisis teams is super interesting, and you can flex and change it when you get to the table and you know that you're playing into a different army. So, for example, if I was going against Gene Stealer Cult with loads of bodies, I might be like, well, I'm going to put my Cold Star with a high output burst, 2 burst cannons, and a cyclic in my missile Cyanide team, so that he gets 4 rerolls to hit and he can split fire. Some crazy combinations that you can do that no other Tau detachment offers you this. And actually, there's not many armies out, in fact, 0 armies out in the game, where 0 armies in the game that actually offer you this level of flexibility after submitting your list to an event. So I've got all these characters that I can then swap and change and place in different units when I get to the table. So let's go straight into the enhancements and stratagems. So enhancements, you've got some, again, very powerful enhancements. One of them, the Starflare Ignition System. It allows you to pick up your commander and his retinue, so his crisis team, and place it back into Deep Strike at the end of the opponent's fight phase. So if you go second, you can do it turn 1, and you've got a unit that can constantly go up into Deep Strike and come down again, being very flexible in terms of where it can be positioned across the board and retaliate to various threats that present themselves. Then you've got the internal grenade racks, which is a niche one, but it's a way of applying mortal wounds if you make a normal move over a unit. So a Cold Star with movement 12, you can move over, you roll 6 dice, and on a 4+, they take a mortal wound, and it also gives him the grenade keyword. So then he could do the grenade stratagem, and then with Fire and Fade, which is a stratagem that you can use for 1 CP, allowing you to make a normal move, you can do it again. So it's like out of phase damage, and it can be consistently 9 mortals, a really good enhancement. And then you've got the prototype weapon system, which is giving your commander lethal or sustain every time he selects to shoot. Again, a really powerful enhancement on a commander that has a load of guns. Then finally, you've got the Puretide Engram chip, which sadly is still not fit for purpose, but it can have some niche applications. If you spend a stratagem on his unit on a 4+, you gain a CP back. And the CP economy in Retaliation has to be very carefully managed because there's lots of things that you're going to be wanting to do at any given time. So stratagems, we have a 6-inch deep strike, which is 2 CP. I know it's painful because a lot of other 6-inch deep strikes are 1, but ours is 2. Now, a commander that loves this detachment is obviously in the picture, as you can see on screen, Commander Farsight. He allows you to reduce the cost of a stratagem by 1, therefore making a 6-inch deep strike 1 CP. He also has an ability that when he's leading the unit, they gain +1 to wound when you're within 9 inches, which allows you to use the 6-inch deep strike for 1 CP, and if he's equipped, say, to a Sunforge team, they'll be strength 10, +1 to wound, which then means any targets at like toughness 11 can easily be removed with Farsight's unit. And he rocks 8 wounds and a 4 pinball. And he's got a sword, which, trust me, can come into play in combat. I always say to people as a joke at the tournament, look, I do have combat, I have a sword, and some crew, but we'll talk more about the sword. So Farsight's great, he loves this detachment. And then the other stratagems that I think are constantly played in Retcad is the Fire and Fade for 1 CP, being able to make a normal move, which is great for Tau because it means that you can go out, you can do extreme damage with these units that I've just talked about, and then go, yeah, I'm going to Fire and Fade now and run away behind terrain or behind the screen and go, you can't interact with me. So I get to absolutely lay the smack down on you, and I have no slap back because I'm firing and fading. Super powerful, especially on Cold Stars, because they give the unit +2 move, which means that they're movement 12 rather than movement 10. Now, the other stratagems are the Arachon Protocol. Now, this does have conditions. If you're targeting a unit that's 6 or more models, you get sustain hits 1. If it meets the criteria of having 11 plus models, it's sustain hits 2. This can be really good on big blobs or even like 5-man units led by a character. Just having that extra additional sustained, thinking about fire knives that can reroll hits is perfect. So this detachment gives you so much flavor and so many tools that other Tau detachments don't offer you. The only thing that it asks of you is to perfect your craft and be very smart in terms of knowing when to be aggressive and when to be defensive. I honestly think that this detachment has got so much play in a competitive scene because it can just dictate the engagements to your opponent. You can say, look, you're on a timer. If you don't screen properly, turn one, I'm not really going to be doing anything. But turn two, if I go first, or even turn two, I'm going to be descending upon you with a hell of a lot of firepower. And if you're not careful, I will just wipe you off the midfield. Which leads me on to the next point. RetCAD has always been, I'm going to operate in the mid of the board, and if you come in here, I'm going to destroy you. If you try to come into my house, I'm going to kick you out. Actually, I'm not going to kick you out, I'm going to destroy you. It doesn't necessarily play the long range game because in the past, I have taken broadsides to help, deal with anti-armor, which is great for certain layouts like GW, but not necessarily great for UKTC or WTC. So it really puts emphasis on that mid-range, high aggressive, high amount of quality shots in the middle of the board rather than long-range firepower. So the change to Riptides is huge because that means now you can take Riptides in Retaliation and they can perform that role of long-range anti-tank. So without further ado, let's go straight into the list that I've created. And just FYI, because it's my favorite detachment, I'm going to be keeping a few things secret. So if you're scouting, because you know that this is my favorite detachment and you're trying to get an edge to know what I'm going to take for LGT and LVO, no, you're going to be sadly mistaken because I ain't revealing that yet. List submissions on Sunday, you'll find out after. But anyway, joking aside, let's get straight into the list. So what we've got here is a couple of commanders. So I know that this army isn't exactly cheap to purchase, and a lot of you have been seeing these lists, like 21 suits, and gone, well, I just don't have enough suits. So I've decided to give you a fair amount of commanders that you should have access to and crisis suits, plus the stuff that you will already own through, using other detachments. So we've gone with Commander Farsight. Like I said, really important piece, giving you that +1 to win within 9. The reduction of stratagem opens up that 6-inch deep strike, at least for 1 CP for a turn. Then we've got a Cold Star Commander with the Star Flare ignition system. 2 burst cannons, cyclic, high output burst, gun drone, shield drone. Because he does have a cyclic, and if he overcharges, takes 3 wounds, you don't want to then die to the second one. So lots of DACA, and it can go uppy downy at the end of the opponent's fight phase. We've got another commander, an Enforcer Commander. He is armed with 4 missile pods, marker drone, shield drone, and he grants the Armor Contemptor, reduces AP by -1 of incoming ranged attacks. Then we go on to the infantry. So we've got a Crew Carnivore team, like I said before, pretty staple in most lists, just a sticky objective and be a screen. And we've got 2 Pathfinder teams because guiding is very important in this detachment as well. We've got 3 units of stealth teams. Now you can get away with 2, but the way that this list kind of ended up being from points-wise, I had to drop a 3rd Pathfinder team to make it legal because it was 2005. So I put in an extra stealth unit because I think it'll be needed with the units that I've picked for this list. So you got 2 Pathfinder teams, one with the recon drone for infiltration and one with grav. And obviously they got the 3 iron rifles, the 2 gun drones on the team leader, and the special semi-automatic grenade launcher. 3 units of stealth are the same, fusion blaster, marker drone, shield drone, support system. And then we're going to go into the vehicle side. So broadsides. Broadsides having a reduction in points is also great. Having an 80 points chassis with 2 rail shots and a seeker missile and ignoring modifiers is value city. So I put 2 single broadsides to help assist, dealing with enemy transports, tanks, bloat drones, whatever they may be. And they're a small enough unit to come on from Strat Reserve, and they've got toughness 6, 2+ save, and they have 8 wounds. Now, what you can do here is, rather than taking missile drones, if you really want to be a little bit obnoxious, you can actually just put 2 shield drones on them, which means that they'll be having 10 wounds, a T6 2-up save for 80 points, which is criminal. It's a war crime. So you can play around with that, because I often find that in a single unit, the missile drones are just on occasion, a bit of blink fire damage, but most of the time are not doing anything. So if you really want to make use out of this 80-point unit, you can play around with, 2 shield drones or a marker drone, shield drone, and, it's crazy when you think a Lancer could go out if it connects with both, and then you save one of them, can't kill a broadside. A lancer shooting into a single broadside. The opponent is not going to like that. Anyway, I digress. Then we're going into the crisis team. So I've chosen 3 crisis suits for you today, one of each variant. So a finite team with all the missiles to go with a missile enforcer. Now you might be thinking, well, why have you gone with the missiles rather than the plasmas? Well, in short, the missile unit, you need in this list at least 2 damage dealing pieces to tackle enemy infantry squads, because you're going to see a lot of combat armies coming your way and bodies. So the way that I've constructed the list is to have 1 burst unit that can use the Starflare ignition system at the end of every fight phase and reposition on the board and hunt down infantry units. And then the missile finite team can be deployed on a flank and be extremely durable. And the reason it can be durable is because you have 5 wounds per crisis suit. You're toughness 5 with 5 wounds and a 3-up save. When you factor in the cover save that you can easily orchestrate so that you're getting the benefit of cover, and armor contempt means that if an opponent's hitting you with AP2, it's AP0, which means you're still on a 3-up. If they're hitting you with AP3, you're on a 4-up, which is the equivalent of a Sunforge with a 4-up inbun anyway. So unless they're hitting you with AP4, you ain't bothered, and obviously you're getting the benefit of cover. If you're not getting the benefit of cover, it obviously changes the math there. So if they're hitting you AP2, puts you to AP1, so it's on a 4-up. AP3 goes to AP2, so it'll be on your 5-up. So cover save is really important here. So you can have your Starflare burst unit deal with infantry on one side, missile dealing with infantry on the other. And with access to the Archon protocol to target those big units with sustained is fantastic on the finite missiles. And if you're within 12, you're getting strength 8. If you're within 9, AP2 rather than AP1, damage 2s. 4 rerolls to hit against the target with sustain hits 2 is crazy good. So there's some really powerful combinations with these 2 particular units that I've chosen. And then the burst star scythe is all burst cannons. So 24 burst cannons at the right distance, aka within 9, you're going to be strength 6 because you're within 12, AP1, and then if you're targeting non-monster or vehicle, it's AP2, and then you can just be going 24 burst cannon shots at strength 6, AP2, 1 damage, and then the commander, in addition, has got 8 shots from his high output burst, 8 shots from his 2 burst cannons, and 3 shots from his cyclic iron blaster. If overcharged, it will become strength 9, AP4, damage 2s. Sick. Brilliant. So, that's your 2 dedicated infantry clearing units, and you need to use those exactly like I described. Your job, hunt down infantry. Yeah? And then you can assist to killing the elites. Right. Then we talk about the additionals. The additionals are 2 and 2. Very similar to EPC. 2 Ghost Keels, 2 Riptides. The reason I've gone with this is because a lot of you that have been playing Retcad saying, like, I'm really struggling holding primary. It just is something that's not clicking, and, I'm not quite you. I'm not, like, using 21 suits, and I've not had all the reps, and I really struggle with holding primary. And I get this quite a lot. So having 2 Ghost Skills in your list allows you to comfortably utilize them to hold down a particular area of the board and force your opponent to trade poorly into you. And by trading, I mean, in order to kill a Ghost Keel, they need to put a hell of a lot, because you got 2 blanks, you got stealth, etc., etc., etc. And then if you have 2 on the expansion objective and you just put 2 of them there, they're like, I'm never taking that. And you can block off the objective physically from your opponent getting onto it. And the Ghost Keels can actually punch up with the detachment rule. So strength 8, cyclic iron raker, when it's overcharged, still wounds transports on 5s. But within 12 inches, you're going to get that +1 strength, which means the cyclic iron raker goes to strength 9, and the twin fusion blaster, which is twin link, goes to strength 10. So actually, the Ghost Keels can take care of the transports, and then the Riptides can go and hunt things from like long range. And the Ghost Keels have got good range as well. They're 36, and they're low not 12. So you can really force your opponent to come to you, which means that your crisis suits can always get the engagements that they need. And then the Riptides can go and hunt things like Elites better, winning Terminators on 2s, or if they've got -1 to wound, it's 3s. And also then threatened the deployment lines for them just putting like a Lancer on there. Because I found that in my experience, when I didn't have like long range anti-tank pieces, they would just like frontline a Land Raider or a Lancer because they know that I can't deal with it turn 1. Turn 2, yes I can, but turn 1, no. But because you've got the Riptides and the Ghost Skills, you can threaten their deployment lines straight away from turn 1, which I think is really interesting. It's the swap. I suppose it's a change in the Retcad list building mentality that actually we can now take pieces that can deliver the damage from the immediate get-go if the opponent lets you. So this is a well-balanced list that will give you all of the tools that you should already have access to. You should already have access to 3 Crisis Teams, Farsight because it's an awesome model, a Cold Star and Enforcer, and you've got obviously guiding units, 3 Stealth, Pathfinders to keep that efficiency of the reroll 1s to hit 1s to wound going, and you've got Recruit for Sticky and some infantry screens as well. There are a couple of things that you can do if you wanted to swap a few things around. I mean, if you drop the 2 single broadsides, for example, it gives you 160. That could be another Ghost Skill if you really want, or it could be probably more infantry. And I think this is something that you probably have to look and really consider. I personally feel that in Retcad, a minimum of 40 infantry is needed. But the reason I've done 30 in this is because the Ghost Skills can actually, hold on to that expansion and not be put, you're not putting an infantry screen that's going to get either charged or shots off the board, because the Ghost Skills can operate around that expansion objective to hold on to your primary, which I think obviously helps and means that I don't have to take as much infantry. So I factor that in. But in certain lists that I've been creating, I can have up to 30, 40, 50 infantry. And I think that's really good for board control. So my advice to you is that really think about the roles in which your crisis suits are, set out to achieve. Like what do I want to do with my crisis teams? And prioritizing the units, prioritize what needs to fire and fade. Sorry, I've done a lot of videos recently and I'm getting a little bit tired, so just do forgive me if I pause for a moment. So an example that I can give to you is that if, for example, you're going against a, infantry heavy army and you're thinking, I need to make sure that these infantry units die, then there's no point firing and fading Riptides or Ghost Skills. You fire and fade your Burst Starsight or your Missile Finite team. You keep that important asset alive because that unit's going to win you the game. If you let it die, it's going to lose you the game. So you need to be very attentive to which units of mine are going to be crucial in this particular matchup or against this army. And I can help with that, obviously, with the faction focus stuff that we've got going on in the Puretide program, and I've showcased it before. But if you're not aware, it's basically all the factions in the game. I've done a SWOT analysis, or strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and giving you a battle plan for every faction in the game. So if you need that level of support, all you have to do is click on the link below and sign up now from Pathfinder and above. So entry-level Pathfinder tier will gain you access to the faction focus stuff, which is shown below. Give me 1 second. I will make sure I flip to it. As you can see here, it's got everything that you need. Every faction in the game, you click on it and it will give you the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats, everything you need. So, the other bit of advice I would give you is that control your command points. You need to make sure that you factor in 6-inch deep strike. You need to also be factoring in that you'll need to fire and fade. Because the beautiful thing that you can do sometimes is that you can 6-inch deep strike, hit something extremely hard, and then fire and fade away, or fire and fade aggressively to deny your opponent's primary. Now, if it's done with Farsight, a 2 CP 6-inch deep strike becomes 1, and then fire and fade is 1. So you spent 2 CP rather than 3. So always be thinking about, right, next turn, what is going to happen? What command points do I need in order to do extreme amount of damage? Yes, 6-inch deep strike is a thing. Fire and fade almost every turn, and then you've got to factor in the Aracon protocol. There are a couple of other stratagems that might see play. You know, for example, a 2 CP auto blow up is hilarious on a Riptide. Being able to go, my Riptide's going to die, I'm going to send it forward, spend 2 CP. When it dies, everything within 6 inches takes D6 mortal wounds. That's very situational, but kind of hella funny if it goes off. So, manage your CP. Think about how you're going to control the tempo of the game. Always be thinking about which units are going to win you the game, which units are important versus the army that you're going against. And then finally, rapid ingress is one hell of a drug. And in this detachment, being able to rapid ingress, say, a Cold Star with his unit and then yeet it somewhere is super potent and powerful. And remember, rapid ingress, you can still use rapid ingress past turn 3. You're thinking, how? Deep strikes have to come in. Yes, they do. But when my Starflare Ignition System commander chooses to go back into reserve, he does not have to come in the next turn. So he can stay in Deep Strike and then rapid ingress later. So a perfect scenario to explain to you would be, imagine a 3 stealth man team walks on into your enemy's deployment zone turn 3. Then you obviously maybe bring in a unit, shoot, etc., etc. The opponent then comes to then deal with the threat in the behind, and you go, hang on a minute, I'm going to rapid ingress my uppy downy unit right next to my stealth suits because I've not used the homing beacon yet with them for free, and I'm here. And they're like, whoa, I didn't even see that coming. That is a very powerful thing that you can do, and it's unique to Retaliation because of the Starflare Ignition system. Great detachment, lots of tools, so much fun to play, and it's now just got even better. My original 21 suits and commanders list went down by 60 points. 60 points in a list that was already running 30 Pathfinders, 10 crew, 2 stealth, 2 Fire Knives, 1 plasma, 1 missile, 3 Sunforged, 3 Cold Stars, Farsight, and 2 Enforcers. And I've just gained 60 points back. Thanks. Awesome. So anyway, thank you so much for all the support so far. I've been seeing loads of love in terms of liking and subscribing and commenting in the videos. And I know I'm kind of cramming everything into like 3 or 4 days, but it's really important to have this information at hand, ready for list submission for LGT. And then obviously for those of you going to LVO, you're going to have a little bit more time because you're going to have the entire week next week to plan your list. So this will be also useful for you. For us UK players, I apologize, it's all crammed into a weekend, but it's better to have this information than not, I suppose. So thank you very much. And remember, like, comment, subscribe. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear where your head's at in terms of your list building for RetCAD. And I'd be super interested to hear back from you, the community. And if you do want to support me further, please click on the link below. Join the Puretide program. We've had so many members join up over the last couple of days, which has been amazing to see. Because without you, the community, and those supporters of what I'm doing here at the Puretide program, this would not be possible. I would not be able to say that my main job is Warhammer. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. And I'd like to continue building on the success that we've had so far within the Puretide program. So thank you from the deepest, bottomest part of my heart. Thank you so much. And I'm going to have the Recruit Hunting Pack and Auxiliary Cadre coming to you tomorrow. So stay tuned for more. Thank you, take care, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.